Now, this is an absolutely crazy article that I just read. It went absolutely viral over on Reddit. And so, if you were to ask the vast majority of people, the entire population, which people in which state pays more taxes, California or Texas, as a percentage? And obviously, 99 plus percent are going to say, well, it's California. California is the big tax state. Everyone pays a ton of taxes in California. Texas is a right wing state, so they don't believe as much in taxes. So, obviously, as a percentage, Californians are going to spend more on taxes, right? Actually, that's not actually true. It appears that most Texans actually pay more in taxes than Californians. So, this is one of those situations where there are very readily accepted premises that are actually wrong, and these are narrative changers. So, here is a graph now. It comes from the Institute of Taxation and Economic Policy. They have a whole article breaking all of this stuff down. And you can see from this chart, it says Texas low taxes for whom? Total state and local taxes as share of family income by income group. California, bottom 20%, 10.5%, as compared to bottom 20% of Texas, which is 13. Middle 60% is 8.9 versus the middle 60 in Texas, 9.7. California top 1% is 12.4, and Texas's top 1% is 3.1. Holy crap, that is garbage. 3.1 for the top 1%. So what we know is rich people are moving to places like Florida and Texas because they have low state income taxes, and so that ends up saving you a bunch of money. We saw Joe Rogan do that. I think Tim the Tap Man moved from New York to Florida, likely for the similar reason as that. And so we all feel so bad for these rich people making millions of dollars having to pay taxes, which is so funny because then you see a graph like this, and you're like, how did the rich people manage to convince average people and poor people to like feel bad for them for paying taxes on their money that they earn? When you look at this graph, it's kind of crazy to me, honestly. But basically, Texas doesn't have a state income tax. So now you're going to think, oh man, well that must mean that they must pay less in taxes, right? I mean, income tax is a big thing. Actually, no, because the thing is, you still have to fund your government and all the things that you need, like Medicaid, roads, schools, etc. School, I think, is like one of the biggest ones. But all of those kinds of things, you have to fund them. They have to come from somewhere, and so Texas has a pretty high state sales tax as well as property tax. Actually, there's an article here talking about how Texas is dealing with trying to figure out how to like lower property taxes, because property taxes are actually higher in Texas than you are California percentage wise. I think almost by double or maybe even more, somewhere around there. So they're trying to figure out how to actually lower the property taxes because home values are rising, and so they have to figure out how to fund schools while also lowering the property taxes. So they just end up paying for it in a different way, and this is what you get. And the thing about income taxes are our income taxes are progressive, right? So as you go up higher and higher, your percentage goes up in terms of how much you pay. Consumption taxes are regressive because people who are not rich are going to have a much higher percentage of their income be spent on consumption, on sales, right? So sales taxes are regressive, and so you end up having a higher makeup of the taxation coming from regressive taxes. And so this is what you end up getting. Texas doesn't have a state income tax, and Texans actually voted in 2019 to enumerate in their constitution a ban on income taxes. And I just don't understand this, honestly. When you see a chart like this and you just understand how the middle class and the poor pay more in taxes in Texas than they do in California, and yet they're so quick and ignorant to vote for a income tax ban. Like, income taxes are progressive, and those are going to be better and also be able to subsidize sales taxes, which are very regressive, right? So it's not true that Texans pay less percentage of their money in taxes than Californians do. The top 1% does, but those are just rich people who have tons of money already. Why would you want them to pay less in percentage than middle class and poor people? We should be having poor people and middle class people paying less money. And so where do you think you're going to get more bang for your buck, in California or Texas? The obvious answer is California, because California provides tons and tons of services, whether it be healthcare, schools, roads, those kinds of things, all of that kind of stuff. Any state that, generally speaking, is against taxes is obviously not going to be able to fund a lot of stuff, or maybe not be able to fund them, but not want to fund them because they're anti-taxes, and so they don't want to spend money, on the government. So you're going to get more services in California, and you're paying less money unless you're in the top 1%. And when you're in the top 1%, you should be paying more in taxes because you have more money and you need to contribute more to society. In order to help poor and middle class people. So you should be shouldering more of the burden. So when we talk about these things, these kinds of narrative setters, it's so important to see, wow, holy crap, most Texans actually pay more in taxes than Californians do. And it's honestly mind-boggling. It just goes to show you that, these areas, and this article, has like a chart of like the inequality index for taxes. It says Texas is number 2. They have Texas at number 2. And basically it's saying like, any state that doesn't have, I'd like think 7 out of the top 10 states without income taxes are actually in the top 10 for inequality for tax rates, because income taxes are progressive if you implement them progressively, which most of them do, versus sales taxes and these property taxes, which end up being regressive instead. So they're just doing regressive taxes where somehow Texas has tricked poor people and middle class people who make nowhere close to the top 1% money, and then they've tricked them into feeling bad for them and to passing income tax bans. It's so crazy to me. So if they're passing income tax, they're going to lower other taxes like property taxes, which are really heavily funding them, and sales taxes, and then you'll pay less in money. So that's why it's so important to look at the actual statistics, the economics, the taxation, etc. And I will always try to keep you guys in the loop on stuff. But wow, this is bonkers.